Welcome to another edition of Give an Ovation, the restaurant guest experience podcast. I'm your host, Zach Oates, and each week I chat with industry experts to uncover their strategies and tactics you can use to create a five-star guest experience. This podcast is powered by Ovation, the feedback and operations platform built for multi-unit restaurants. It gets you the insights you need to improve without an annoying survey for your guests. Learn more at ovationup.com. And today we have someone who has really seen an incredible growth. He's the area developer and owner of 7 units for Rock N Roll Sushi. He has been there from 16 units. They're now at 75 units. He's been in it. He's been around it. He's been enjoying it. Eric Robison, welcome to the show, man. How are
Hey, thank
you?
you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, we're doing great. Things are going good. We're enjoying it and excited to be here today.
Well, I'm really excited. And as you have seen this journey really from the inside, what are some lessons that you would have shared with, Rock and Roll Sushi and yourself at 16 units now that you're all are at 75 units?
Yeah, I mean, we've just been like, as you grow and things change, you see what works for you. And then sometimes you kind of lose sight of things too. I think one thing that really like put it in perspective for us was, coming out of COVID, it was obviously one of the hardest things I think anybody's been through in the restaurant industry. And going through that and being able to say, like, man, the guest experience fell apart during COVID. The guests were on edge. Our staff was on edge, and we kind of lost sight of how important it was. We almost became in a mindset of we're being attacked, they're being attacked, everyone's under attack. And like, how do we bring that back? Once we got out of that, we said, man, something's changed in our service. And we stopped. I think you just kind of like you're battle hardened in a way. And you're like, well, we've got to get back to great guest experiences. We've got to start giving people a reason to come out of the house again and come back into our restaurants.
Yeah.
And to really build that experience and say, does the experience look like now? How do we make an enjoyable time outside the house again? And so that's been a huge focus for us.
And as you're looking at this and as you're thinking about how do you get people back in, and like, what are you guys focused on? What is basically more important, the retention or, the net new?
Yeah, I mean, for sure it's the retention, because you can't grow a business if you're not retaining the guests. And what we've seen is we do a lot of third-party deliveries, DoorDash, Uber Eats, and we're thankful for that business, but it's not the way that I see the brands growing from the experience that we want to provide. We want people to be excited about dining out, excited about sushi. There's a lot of things that you can make at home. You can make a sandwich at home, but sushi at home is a difficult thing to pull off. So we can deliver it, but it's so much better if you just come in and let us create that experience for you in the restaurant. So we're trying to do everything we can to bring the guests back out of the house and bring the guests to a fun night out, make it a good date night experience or a good office lunch meeting.
And Rock and Roll Sushi, you guys obviously have a really strong brand. It's a loud brand. It's one that you
Yeah,
look at it and it's not like your neighborhood sushi shop. I mean, it is
right.
like, tell me a little bit about the vibe of Rock and Roll
Yeah, I mean,
Sushi.
we're kind of breaking the rules of what, your traditional sushi place should be or what it could be. So we're bringing it out. We have music videos playing. We got the music a little louder. We're trying to bring vibrant atmospheres and really create an experience where you come out and say, wow, that was a fun time to go out for dinner. And even all the way down to the food, is the food fun? And we're doing a lot of just innovative things with bringing that experience together. Unusual rolls with strawberries on top and avocados and stuff that you wouldn't traditionally see at a standard sushi restaurant.
And the brand too. I mean, like, you look at the brand and you're like, this is like a fun place.
Yeah,
And
it's a little
how does
loud.
that play
I like
into
that.
as you're looking at, yeah, it's like with your staff and creating this brand, it goes beyond just a logo and marketing. Like, you really got to infuse that in your people. How do you do that?
But I think it starts with who you hire and then definitely how you train, spending the time to find the right people that are going to help you, build a memorable experience. It's not just, place the order, get the food. Is, hey, we are Sushi Amplified. We are dining out loud. And so we want to just bring that from starting with our servers all the way to our food. What is that experience you get when you come out? And how do we fulfill that promise?
Yeah, and I think that's so awesome because we talk about this all the time about how the guest and the employee experience are inseparably connected. You have to connect the two. But when you look at the guest experience, what do you think some of the most important aspects of guest experience nowadays are?
Yeah, I think so. What we have to remember right out the gate is when people come out to dine with you, food makes us happy. Like food gives us joy. And so your expectation is when
Mhm.
someone comes out, is like, I want to be happy. And they kind of put the burden on you as, will you make me happy? Can you satisfy my needs? And so you get that line of like, this was my intention. And if you don't hit my happiness, I can go sad real fast. And so like, how are you going to solve for
Yeah.
that? But really just letting that be the first thing you know is like, they're coming here to be happy. They're coming here to enjoy their experience dining out. So give them that experience. Give them, I mean, everyone's got a finite amount of money. Where am I going to spend my paycheck? Who am I going to give my money to? And what are you going to give me back for it? And I tell my team all the time, whether it's the cocktail, like we call them rocktails, whether it's the rocktail or it's the sushi roll, it's like, what are you doing? They're not buying the little bit of alcohol in the glass. They're buying the experience. They're buying the, the
Yeah.
boomerang. They're buying like hey, do I have something to hold and build on that experience? And, do I get the chopsticks? And it's like, it's just bringing all those aspects together and saying, I've had a dining experience that I left feeling better than when I came in.
And that's a great I love that philosophy of just how do you leave it, I'm an Eagle Scout and we always talk about in the campground, leave it better than you found it, right? And
Yeah.
it's like same so too with people. How do your guests leave happier than when they came in? And if that's the mentality and if that's the focus of every single employee every single time, then you're going to crush it because guess what happens, Eric? When you go to a restaurant and you have a bad experience with a server, you leave that restaurant and you say, man, Jim was really rude. No, you say that restaurant has bad service,
That's right.
right? And so I think it's so critical that we remember that.
Absolutely. And you'll see that in your brand. It's like, and even, what Ovation helped us with is protecting that online appearance and like, how are you able to, solve it when you mess up? Because we're not perfect. We're working with a lot of moving pieces and everyone knows restaurants are not easy, but how do you
Yeah.
solve for that?
And by the way, how has Ovation been helpful for you?
Man, it's given us so much power to really see what are the guests thinking, what are they feeling, and then just being able to communicate with the guests is just like, wow, that's so insightful. There's like you have theories and you have thoughts, but it's like now we know what the guest says, and we know like how to get in contact with them. When they left us a Google review, we would try to reach out, but there's almost no response. Like you could like, please just let me know. I want to talk to you. Like ghost town. I think too, because Google is such a public platform, it's like, well, I don't really want to just be out there. It's one thing to go leave the 1-star review, but how do you don't really have an open discussion on that platform.
Right. Right.
And then Ovations brought that
Is
together.
there anything that you've been able to change operationally? Anything that you learned from using Ovation, from hearing from your guests?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things was realizing something that we weren't doing right. You're like, well, we think we're executing the menu item. Why are they complaining about this one menu item all the time? Like, we've got to change something on that. And we were saying like, there was for us specifically, fried rice. And it was expected like some certain industry standards of like a chicken fried rice is a dinner sized portion. But for us, it was just a side. And so we started like, man, people aren't getting that this is a side, even though because the industry standard says this is an entree. And we're like, we're letting people down, even though the price said side. The expectation was still entree. So we're like, well, we've got to solve for that.
Yeah.
And that's something we're like, we didn't know that one particular thing was letting so many guests down. We're like, why is everyone complaining about this one little thing? But it gave us insight so we can take that information and be like, then let's change it. If we're not acing it to the guest expectation, we're the problem. We can't say it's the guest's fault. Hey, it says, so we're working through that and saying like, what can we do? We want to wow. And this product's not doing it.
I love that because it's so things like that where it's like never the guest has these feelings, they have these thoughts, but what happens historically is if you're waiting for an online review, you're not going to get an accurate representation and that complaint is going to seem like a one-off. But when you can get a lot of information from your guests or get a lot of guests to give you a little bit of information, it
Yes,
paints a much more accurate picture about what's actually happening in the
it really
restaurants.
does. Yeah, for sure.
Love that. Any well, I appreciate that and glad that you're seeing value with Ovation. That is my biggest motivation in the world, is just driving value and hoping that people can see that value. But as I always say, Ovation isn't to make bad restaurants good, it's to make great restaurants better. And
Absolutely.
the great restaurants, they want to create that guest experience. They have that guest first mentality. They're not afraid of hearing what their guests are saying and helping that guest feel heard. And so kudos to you and thank you for doing that. So
No,
any
absolutely.
besides Ovation, any other tactics that you would use to to improve the guest experience?
Yeah. So when we do some leadership reading with our team, and we're always looking for a good thing to help us inspire ourselves and renew our energy each day. And then recently we did a group read right at the same time that we launched Ovation, and just kind of really worked together with setting the table with Danny Myers. And we started like really implementing those 5 A's: awareness, acknowledgement, apology, action, and additional generosity, to migrate that in or merge that in with our Ovation. Like, how do we coach? How do we not just hear what the guest is saying, but how do we answer what the guest is saying? How do we make changes, and let the guests know that we're caring about this? Like, this, it's not just, okay, we don't want a 1-star review. Of course not. Well, how do we earn 5 stars? And how do we take those sad
Mm.
guests and turn them into happy guests? And how do we, write that great final chapter with the guest, and get them loyal to our brand, because we want to be loyal to our guests.
I love that, because at the end of the day, when you look at the power of a recovered guest, when you do that proper service recovery, we find that our data shows that guest who was mad and you recover them is worth 24 times the value of the average guest. And we followed 150,000 customers over 18 months to see their patterns of how they shop and where they go to eat and how often they eat there. And what is it based on if they're mad or if they're happy or if they're not. And so really powerful data that shows, I completely agree with you, Eric, about what you said earlier. It's great to bring in new guests, but there's a lot of things that you can do to retain the guests that you have, and that is so much more valuable. That is so much that's way easier to do. And not only that, but those are the guests that are going to go out and be your advocates, bringing in the new customers. And so you could focus all you want on marketing, but when you focus a lot and when you really focus on the guest experience and that retention and recovery, that naturally produces net new customers coming in because they bring their friends, because they become loyal raving fans.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. We're
So
enjoying that.
as we look to the future, as we look to what's next at Rock and Roll Sushi, how do you think about the future of the brand? What do you think are some of the main focuses that restaurants should be looking at nowadays?
Yeah, I think just being open and honest with yourself about, hey, even if sometimes it's always hard to accept criticism, right? And then when you have a platform like Ovation, I think you've got to be very mindful about how you want to receive this information, and be like, look, it's not criticism. This is coaching from your guest, and saying, we want to do more business with you. We've taken the time to tell you what would make us do more business with you. So listen to them and say, oh, wow, I do care about my business succeeding. I need to know what you're saying. And I need to know before you answer with your wallet. Because when the sales have already started going down, then it's too late. You've messed up. And digging out of that hole, man, I don't know if it seems like it's harder than ever. To get that guest back, it's so difficult. They have a lot of options. Um, Open to the feedback, I would say. It's like, you're gonna get the feedback. And I tell people that when they start up with Ovation, I'm like, you're gonna get a lot of feedback. You can't sit there and get negative in your head. It's like, this is coaching. This is what you're asking for. And it's gonna be so thankful that you're getting that information.
I love the fact that you just use the word thankful, because this feedback really is a gift, and if you treat it that way, it's going to help you and your business and your team and your brand just get better. So love
It
that.
definitely is.
Eric,
Yeah.
where can people go to find and follow you and Rock and Roll Sushi?
Yeah. You can follow us on, we have one Instagram page or Facebook page for the whole brand. And then we have local ones in your town. If there's that way, you always know what local events. A lot of our locations are doing like karaoke and some other music bingo and some other things like that are starting to go on locally. But follow the brand, at R&R Sushi on Instagram and Facebook. And you can follow me. I'm not really great with content. I got a brand new baby at home, and we're struggling. We're not sleeping at time, but we're having a great time. But yeah, I'm out there on some social medias.
I know Eric was rocking the Red Bull right before the podcast. I'm like, I get it. I've been there with the newborn. Yeah, I know. Just like, yeah, every hour feels like a day when you're on a few hours of sleep. So I really appreciate you coming on, Eric, and for being a rock star with guest experience. Today's ovation goes to you. Thank you for joining us on Give an Ovation.
Thank you very much.